He is my Lord, spiritual. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy. Bitwa, three, Pad, Vavrida, Eka, Uru, Karoha, Bitwa, Tripad, Vavrida, Eka, Uru, Praroha. Tasmai, Namo, Bhagavate, Bhuvana, Drumaya, Tasmai, Namo, Bhagavate, Bhuvana, Drumaya. Yovaraham Chagirisas Chabibho Swayam Cha. Stityu Baba Palaya Etava Atmamulam. Bitva Tripad Vavrida Eka Uru Praroha. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya. Yovaraham Chagirisas Chabibho Swayam Cha. Stityu Baba Palaya Hetava Atmamulam. Bitva Tripad Vrivida Eka Uru Paroha. Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Yova aham cha girisas cha vibhu swayam cha.
Yovaraham Chagirisas Chabibho Swayam Cha.
Sit udbhava pralaya hitava atmamunam.
Stityu Baba Pralaya Hetava Atmamulam.
Vidva tripad vavridha eka uru pralohas.
Bitva Tripad Vavrida Eka Uru Paroha.
Tasmai namo bhagavate bhuvana drumaya.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Yovaraham Chagirisascha Vibhusvayam Cha.
Yovaraham Chagirisascha Vibhu Swayam Cha.
Bhava Pralaya Hetava Atmamulam.
Stityu Baba Palaya Hetava Atmamulam.
Vidva Tripada Vavrita Eka Uru Praroha.
Bitva Tripad Vavrida Eka Uru Paroha.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Yovaraham Chagirisascha Vibhu Swayam Cha.
Yovaraham Chagirisas Chabibho Swayam Cha.
Stityu Bhava Pralaya Hetava Atmamulam.
Stityu Baba Pralaya Hetava Atmamulam.
Bitva Tripad Vavrita Eka Uru Praroha.
Bitva Tripad Vavrida Eka Uru Paroha.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvana Drumaya.
Yovaraham Chagirisascha Vibhu Swayam Cha.
Yovaraham Girisascha Vibho Swayam Cha Sri Baba Palaya Hetava Atma Mulam Vivad Vivad Vrida Eka Uru Parohas Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvanadrumaya Yovaham Girisascha Vibho Swayam Cha Sityu Baba Palaya Hetava Atma Mulam Vivad Vivad Vrida Eka Uru Parohas Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvanadrumaya.
You want to try? Krishna?
Yes. Yova aham ka karisa veham sayam ka.
Yovanaham Girisascha Vibho Swayam Cha
Si udvahe parale yiktava atma ulam.
Sityu Baba Palaya Hetava Atma Mulam
Vidva kripa vatte ika ulu paros.
Vivad Vivad Vrida Eka Uru Parohas
Tasmai namo bhagavate bhuvanadrumaya.
Tasmai Namo Bhagavate Bhuvanadrumaya. Yaha, one who, Vai, certainly, Aham, Cha, also I, Girisascha, also Shiva, Vibhu, the Almighty, Swayam, personality, in parentheses, it's Vishnu, Cha, in, Stiti, maintenance, Ubaba, creation, Pralaya, dissolution, Hetava, the causes, Atmamula, self-rooted, Bitwa, having penetrated, Tripat, three trumps, Bavride, group, Ekaha, one without a second, Uru, many, Paroha, branches, Tasmai, onto him, Namaha, obeisance, Bhagavate, onto the personality of Godhead, Bhuvanadrumaya, onto the tree of the planetary system. Translation, please repeat. Your Lordship is the prime root of the tree.
Your Lordship is the prime root of the tree.
Of the planetary system.
Of planetary systems.
This tree has grown.
This tree has grown.
By first penetrating the material nature.
By first penetrating the material nature.
In three trunks.
In three trunks.
Is me, Shiva, and you.
Is me, Shiva, and you.
The Almighty.
The Almighty.
For creation, maintenance, and dissolution.
For creation, maintenance, and dissolution.
And we three have grown with many branches.
And we three have grown with many branches.
Therefore I offer my obeisances unto you.
Therefore I offer my obeisances unto you.
The tree of the cosmic manifestation.
The tree of the cosmic manifestation.
Your Lordship is the prime root of the tree of the planetary systems. This tree has grown by first penetrating the material nature in three trunks. Is me, Shiva, and you, the Almighty, for creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And we three have grown with many branches. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you, the tree of the cosmic manifestation. It's Lord Brahma speaking. Therefore, he says, is me, Shiva, and you, referring to Vishnu, the Almighty. Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport. The cosmic manifestation is grossly divided into three worlds: the upper, lower, and middle planetary systems. And then it broadens into the cosmos of the 14 planetary systems. With the manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the supreme root. Material nature, which appears to be the cause of the cosmic manifestation, is only the agency or energy of the Lord. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 10. Maya jaksena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. Only under the superintendence of the Supreme Lord does material nature appear to be the cause of all creation, maintenance, and dissolution. The Lord expands unquote, the Lord expands himself into three: Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, for maintenance, creation, and destruction, respectively. Of the three principal agents controlling the three modes of material nature, Vishnu is the Almighty, even though he is within material nature for the purpose of maintenance. He is not controlled by the laws of material nature. The other two, Brahma and Shiva, although almost as greatly powerful as Vishnu, or within the control of the material energy of the Supreme Lord. The conception of many gods controlling the many departments of material nature is ill-conceived. Is ill-conceived of by the foolish pantheists. God is one without a second, and he is the principal cause of all causes. As there are many departmental heads of governmental affairs, so there are many heads of management of the universal affairs. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, the impersonalist does not believe in the personal management of things as they are. But in this verse, it is clearly explained that everything is personal and nothing is impersonal. We have already discussed this point in the introduction, and it is confirmed here in this verse. The tree of material manifestation is described in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, is an asvat tree whose root is upward. We have actual experience of such a tree when we see the shadow of a tree on the bank of a reservoir of water. The reflection of the tree on the water appears to hang down from its upward roots. The tree of creation described here is only a shadow of the reality, which is Parabrahman, Vishnu. And the internal potential manifestation of the Vaikuntha Lokas, the actual tree exists, and the tree reflected in the material nature is only the shadow of this actual tree. The impersonalist theory that Brahman is void of all variegatedness is false, because the shadow tree described in Bhagavad Gita cannot exist without being the reflection of the real tree. The real tree is situated in the eternal existence of spiritual nature, full of transcendental varieties, and Lord Vishnu is the root of that tree also. The root is the same. The root is the same. The Lord, both for the real tree and the false. But the false tree is only the perverted reflection of the real tree. The Lord, being the real tree, is here offered obeisances by Brahma on his own behalf and also on behalf of Lord Shiva. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 16th sloka, 3rd canto, 9th chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma's prayers for creative energy. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Aganati Miranda Shagananjana Shilakaya Kakshul Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupaha Kadamayam Darati Swakarantikam He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabando Jigapate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gurangi Radhe Vrindavane Swari Vrishabhanu Stutu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchikapya Tulubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Dievacha Patitam Nam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sriraj, your head is right in the middle of the clock. I can't see the time. It's 8 o'clock, so we really only have about 10 minutes before the official time is up. And me and Sriraj have to go do something, and I have to go someplace. So see what I can do in a short amount of time. It's a wonderful verse and really nice purport, emphasizing the things that devotees hear all the time. But I want to pick at our modern worldview, which is sort of impersonal, or even if it's religious, we don't really account for a material creation with many celestial beings controlling the cosmos. And our Christian, this Near Eastern religions that come out of Judaism, Mohammedanism, or Islam, and Christianity. There's a tendency to think that there's just the Almighty God who has his devotees and his heavenly kingdom. And somehow or other there's a vast impersonal type of space with, our good old planet Earth, with the epitome of God's creation being us measly human beings, practically speaking. That's how they tend to think of it. And then they have various conceptions. Some think that God is like a watchmaker, that he makes a watch and he winds it up and it's on its own. So they think that the material world is just sort of on its own. God has created it, he wound it up, and so be it. And he really doesn't take much part in it. Other than condemning souls who have been nasty and bad to some sort of eternal damnation, and blessing those who have been his devotees with eternal life in his kingdom. So that's how they tend to think of it. And then we have many agnostics and atheistic, many of them scientists who study the material nature, which appears, as Prabhupada says in the purport, he appears to be the cause. The cause seems to be the elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego. It's broken up into that periodic chart that they give with all the various elements, which is like over 120 something nowadays. Things like pure steel, iron, and all kinds of various chemicals and gases. And so that seems to be the cause of everything. I mean, after all, that's what kind of surrounds us. H2O in the form of water, and then oxygen that we breathe. So it appears that everything has come out of these material elements, including our bodies. And where personality or consciousness has come from, that they're unsure of. They give these atheistic theories of some sort of black hole and the vast, impersonal space as some sort of hole, just like we see the sun in the daytime. So there's some hole, dark hole out there that somehow ever, these elements has come, and from these elements somehow ever some life has come about, beginning from the smallest little thing, and then, gradually evolving until we got the epitome of creation, namely, again, us measly human beings. So, of course, that's completely, un-Vedic. Both conceptions are un-Vedic. The Vedic thought existed in the ancient world, all over the ancient world. But because of the change of ages, the age of irreligion, where religion becomes irreligion and irreligion becomes religion, where God's adversaries can take over and completely cover him over, even to the extent of saying that ultimately everything's impersonal. There is no God. There's not even any ultimate transcendental form. And all these material forms are just Maya, illusion, because ultimately everything is just impersonal light. Well, you have some, Buddhist philosophy where ultimately reality is really nirvana. It's nothing. It's nothing. All of this something is illusion, and it's the cause of our unending suffering. We have to put an end to this suffering through constant meditation on the truth of reality, that ultimately everything is coming out of the great nirvana or void. And we have to dismantle this material energy and separate ourselves from it until again we can merge into that nirvana. So they had all these things to cover over God, Krishna, and take away his personality. And that's what happens in all Kali Yugas. There's just this little window, just like on a computer where you get you have a window. There may be many windows, and you can pick out a window that you want to work with. So similarly, there's this one little window in this Kali Yuga that, where Krishna, he's going to make an appearance. Usually, he just, it's given to Kali. It's his age. It's the age of irreligion. Krishna just disappears. He's within the heart of everybody, but because people become so covered over, there may be some who have some faith like that, but he gradually becomes completely covered over, and people are completely enamored with sense gratification, and they simply fight over power and wealth and lust and greed. But Krishna is making a little appearance in this age as Lord Chaitanya, and he's reviving this whole Vedic culture that was practically being stamped out. I mean, even himself, when he appeared in the world of the Mughal Empire. She had, taken over most of India and was completely, destroying Vedic culture, completely dismantling temples, rebuilding them with the bricks turned around the opposite way, with Arabic inscriptions put in them by Hindu craftsmen whose hands they would just cut off afterwards, so they would never be able to do it again. They completely were destroying Vedic culture. And they were only stopped by the British. Of course, there were different Hindu kings were fighting back. It was constantly, the whole subcontinent was just a place of warfare. We think America was a place of warfare between Native American Indians and Europeans. We haven't delved into the history of India. It was a complete warfare going on. And when the British arrived, they gradually, through money, paying mercenaries from around the world, but mainly in India itself, to gain control of this country, did they stop the jihad of Islam and created the British Raj, whereby they raped the wealth and completely undermined the culture through science and religion, their religion. In this way, Vedic culture was completely being destroyed. Even though Lord Chaitanya had appeared in the midst of the Mughal Empire and created this Sankirtan movement, it had again become covered. Right after Lord Chaitanya's appearance, practically speaking, after all of his associates left, including King Patapurudra, the Muslims went into Jagannath Puri, dragged Jagannath out of the temple, and took him to Calcutta to burn in front of everybody. And so this way Vedic culture was being, lost. It was only Lord Chaitanya and his associates holding it together. And then you had so many representatives of Hinduism who were practically like demons in the sense that they said that the absolute truth was impersonal. This way they played right into the hands of the Muslims, who also say that Allah is some sort of feature that, you don't dare give personal features to without becoming a heretic. You don't even draw pictures of people because that's heresy. The truth is ultimately something that you cannot wrap your mind around. We simply pray to the Almighty. So, Lord Chaitanya's movement existed, but was being lost along with all Vedic culture. Vedic culture was being represented by Hindu sadhus as, with the Brahman feature as the supreme. And the thought of the kingdom of God in Vaikuntha Loka and Krishna Loka as being simply some illusion along with the rest of illusion that would maybe help people to fix their mind on the great impersonal expanse of the Jyoti, of all pervading light. But again, Lord Chaitanya, he attacked through his devotees. Most of his glory was through his devotees when he was on earth. Even his disciples wrote all of his teachings. He didn't write them. His disciples wrote them. And so his glories were being propounded and expounded upon by his devotees. Lord Nityananda spread the Sankirtan movement throughout Bengal. And so many wonderful associates did so many things. So down and down. So finally, Srila Prabhupada came to the West. He put all this into the English language. His disciples translated it into all other languages of the world, including even Bengali. And all of a sudden, you have a movement, and you have a revival of Vedic culture in India itself, where, again, Vaishnavas, or personal devotees of Vishnu, were coming forward from all the other sampradayas also, like the Sri Sampradaya, the Kumara Sampradaya. And you have this great revival going on, which is certainly hasn't taken over because there's a constant fight of who's going to rule there. The Muslims, the Christians, the secularists, the communists have all come together to fight against the Hindus, to gain control of the country again. They're completely at odds and completely tormented and hate the fact that the BJP, the party representing the vast amount of what we call Hindu people, has gained power. And they're doing whatever they can to undermine it and destroy it and again take control of the country. And they've been successful in West Bengal itself, the home of Lord Chaitanya. To the extent that any Hindu that runs away from Bangladesh because they're constantly being persecuted, now when they come into West Bengal, they're persecuted by the government in control for even coming there. So this is the situation that that it's not over. Prabhupada's mission hasn't become fully successful. It's up to the devotees to stand up and to do something to serve this great mission of Lord Chaitanya. Convince people like Prabhupada convinced people. Do we think it was easy for Prabhupada to come here and convince people who had a completely different conception of life? And who it wasn't that they didn't know about this. They labeled it mythology. It was no different than Greek and Roman mythology. It was Hindu mythology. That's what they considered it. And Prabhupada had to come and convince people of the science of Bhagavad Gita, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, that there is a living soul in every body. I mean, scientists don't only believe that there's not many scientists, not all scientists, there are theistic scientists, but atheistic scientists, they don't only believe that there's not a God, they don't believe that there's a soul. Buddhists don't believe that there's an individual soul. So how could Prabhupada convince a world of this teaching of Bhagavad Gita, that there is an individual soul, and that the nature of the individual soul is to be devoted to the Supreme Soul, that's our life. That is what enables us to transcend the world of misery, of repeated birth and death. So, Prabhupada certainly was successful. He established 108 temples. He created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He created the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust to print his books in all languages of the world and to distribute it all over the world. Prabhupada's disciples and their disciples went out constantly distributing this knowledge. But then after you give the people a book, you have to convince them that it's real. So then that begins with the practices. Prabhupada would say the taste is in the pudding. So, the practice has to bear some result. People chant Hare Krishna many times to become free from fear, free from misery. That's how it may start. It may be to gain some wealth because of poverty. Help me to get out of this terrible situation. And that, there may be some who have some knowledge and who chant for that reason. But ultimately it's meant to bear fruit, that we actually gain some revelation that there is Vaikuntha Loka, there is Krishna Loka, there is a transcendental world, that life is going on personal, not only in the spiritual sphere, but even into this material sphere, and that the whole cosmos is being controlled by powerful devas who are just instruments or agents of the Almighty Vishnu. And that they're controlling things even on earth during the Kali Yuga, where the seat of government has been turned over to the agent of quarrel and hypocrisy himself. So devotees have done a wonderful job so far, but there's tons and tons and tons of work to do. And we have to see it as very important. From establishing a temple that will last some time in the little bitty county of Hancock, Mississippi, but who else is going to do it here except those devotees who decide to work for Prabhupada here? plenty of devotees working for Prabhupada in Mayapur, Vrindavan. I mean, after all, those are the greatest places of pilgrimage. But there's few other devotees working all other places of the world, including little bitty old Hancock County, Mississippi, or, New Orleans, Louisiana, with to speak of so many other. What is it? How many counties in America? There's thousands of counties. There's 80 counties in Mississippi, 50 states. Every state must have at least 40 counties. Some states may have plenty more. Mississippi has 80. So in every county of this country alone, Krishna consciousness has to be established. Why one temple? It's just like in India. You don't see one temple in every county. You see hundreds of temples. So why you don't see one church in one county. You see hundreds of churches. So, Krishna consciousness has a long way to grow before Lord Chaitanya's movement. Everyone has the opportunity to be an instrument for Prabhupada and Krishna. Just like, those persons who served Prabhupada directly way back in the beginning. They could become Prabhupada's instrument. So the same thing is there today. Everybody has the opportunity to become Prabhupada's instrument and to serve Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement and to save the world from repeated birth and death and misery. Because after all, what has this civilization done but make people crazy, practically speaking? Make us full of all sorts of diseases and just put us to work like a bunch of asses to capture some money to buy some trinkets. Practically speaking, that's what's going on. The whole world is full of health problems, economic problems, just problem after problem after problem. So the Sankirtan movement has to save the day. And, I've run out of time right now to preach about that, and it's time to go out and get to work to save the day. Hare Krishna. What about the John?
What would cause one religion to try to dominate another in the world?
Not a mode of passion. That's all. It's just a mode of passion. God built a house the whole world can live into. There's no reason for violence, and that includes verbal violence and mental violence also. Let people live in harmony and peace, and praise and glorify God. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhu.